up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Moedotj and we are locked in. We have a new show alert. We Own This City on HBO Max. Now, the directors of this, they originally wrote The Wire. This isn't a sequel. This isn't a spinoff, but it does have some similarities to it, and it also has some characters from The Wire, which will give you that, that OG Wire feel. Now, this show is based in Baltimore also, and it's about a cesspool of dirty cops. Also, little lawyers and other people throughout the show where everybody's stories are connected. Now, this is the first episode. We're going to break this down, but before we jump into it, shout out to the notification gang. If you're new to the channel, you want to be a part of it, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Hit that like button. It's the easiest thing you can do. Now, this show, it seems pretty good. The first episode was good. I know I'm a little behind on it, but we will start having the recaps up on Tuesday because the show does air on Monday. So let's jump into it. We're going to break it down. And of course, it's the first episode of a new series. So it's going to be a little bit longer because we have to break down individual characters and go a little bit more in depth. So let's jump into it. This is the first episode of We Own This City on HBO Max. What you see here is a Baltimore Police Department run sheet, a log of activities. Now, the guy you hear speaking is Sergeant Jenkins, and you'll see these little police logs throughout the series because this keeps us updated on where we're at in the timeline. And this also shows what he did for that day. State witness at 8:30 in the morning. He did admin duty from noon to 1. He did a gun investigation from 1 to 3:30. And now he's doing a lecture and he's talking to everybody about what's going on in the streets of Baltimore. Sergeant Jenkins is giving a lecture to everybody, and basically what he's covering is police brutality. He's telling them that's not what you want to do. You don't want to be the baddest cop out there because what cops need is information. So you want to kind of cooperate with these drug dealers, with these criminals, so you can get information on the street. Now, you can tell that he's kind of going a little overboard with trying to seem like he's a good guy. And he's also saying, if you're beating somebody, you're not getting any information. They're not going to tell you nothing on the streets. You're going to go to court. They're not going to give up any information. So if you think that's what you're going to do, you're not coming anywhere near my task force. Now, they do show police officers out there being brutal with the people trying to get information and get drug up off the street. As I was saying, you could tell that there was something that he was hiding. And he also says, your hands aren't tied. So if you got to whip some ass out there, just be able to manipulate the police report. Be able to write it up, because when you go in court, it's your word versus theirs, and they're going to believe the police officer. You see what he said? I'm not encouraging police brutality, but if you do whip some ass, write it up correctly so it won't come back on you. Now, you see a few people clapping in here, but some people kind of holding back because they're like, man, that don't sound right. And of course, the first thing we see from Sergeant Jenkins outside of this lecture, a man just bought a bottle of liquor. Just took a little sip outside the little corner store and bow! He done broke the glass, and the dude just sitting there like, man, that was my last couple of dollars. This man Jenkins is a menace, so we gotta watch him. The next character we get introduced is to Momodu, aka G Money, Gondo. Now he's in here and he's being interrogated, and who are they asking him about? Wayne Jenkins, the guy that just gave us that monumental lecture. And he's saying, man, Wayne, he crazy. That's a crazy dude, because Wayne can go out there and get information in these streets. But we just seen what he does. He uses a little bit of intimidation. So it looks like G Money is in here. He might be the one that's going to spill some beans a little bit later on Wayne Jenkins. The lecture was back in January. Now we're in February. Baltimore Police Department, Wayne Jenkins, admin, obtain warrant, S&S staging, execution of warrant. Remember, we're in February now. They knock on the door. They come in there. They putting everybody down. Yeah, the warrant is in effect. They go upstairs. They find dope upstairs. They finding rifles in the closet, guns up under the bed, ammo. And then Wayne Jenkins sees something in this closet, but they don't show us what it is. Mr. Sean Shooter. Now, he's a desk worker, but he's in Baltimore Police Department homicide. Now, he knows Wayne Jenkins, and Jenkins just came in with a duffel bag full of stuff. And he's asking him, what is it? He's like, oh, I know you guys got some unsolved murders. I got some weapons. We're going to run it through ballistics. I figure I'm going to solve a few jobs. Now, you can see how his demeanor is towards Jenkins, because he's like, I'm about to retire. But he's looking at Jenkins and seeing how his behavior is. And he's kind of distant from him because he knows something. And you can tell that he's probably been holding this back. Now, I told you Momodu's in here. They asked him about Wayne Jenkins. Now they're asking him, while you was on the force, when did you start doing robberies? He's like, about 2008. Mind you, this is 2017 that we're in. So as a police officer, he was one of the dirty ones. He was robbing drug dealers for personal gain. And now he's wondering, how did y'all even get onto us? And they're like, trust me, we asked the questions here, but we did our research. So Momodu, he was in these streets. June 2015, 2 years earlier. We have Officer McDougal and Officer Hawk. Now they're asking this guy, so what happened to your girl? He was like, oh man, we had consensual sex and I was going to show her these pictures of me taking of her when she woke up. Officer McDougal can tell he's lying. Now Hawk is the black officer and he finds some drugs in the bag. So we know that we got that under control, but we want to know where are these drugs coming from? Who did you get them from? He's like, I don't know, man. It's some guy named Black. They're like, no, we need more than that because I know a homeboy named Black. I got 2 homeboys named Black. What else do you know about him? And the druggie's saying it's a guy named Anderson. What we see here is some officers being overly aggressive with a gentleman for who knows what. Now you see everyone has their camera phones out because they see whatever the cops are doing is wrong. Now we see a lady, Nicole Steele. She's actually pulling up and she sees this going on also and she films it. Now she is an attorney for the OCR, which is the Office of Civil Rights. So for her, this is some good footage that she can definitely use. Nicole gets back to her office and her boss is actually looking at the footage of the spot she just drove by and recorded. And he's saying, did you see how it finished with him on the ground? Nicole says, that's not how it finished. The cops got up and they let him go. They didn't even take him in for any kind of charge. That's because all the cameras was on him. Now we weren't as progressive as we are now where people are going to be on him and apply that pressure. We get introduced to a new guy named Ahmed. Now he wanted to go with the Department of Justice and get into the civil rights. So they sent him down to Baltimore. Now you hear Nicole say, you better hope that a Democrat wins because if a Republican wins, this office isn't really going to do any work. Whenever one party takes over, they start Xing out other people's jobs. That's just how it is. Officer McDougal is going to be our hard worker. He's going to be our legit officer in this whole series. Now, what he's doing is talking to this gentleman here, Officer Kilpatrick, who is in a whole nother county because he's trying to look up this Anderson Black guy. Now, when he gets there, Kilpatrick is chilling. You know how you are on a job until someone comes and tell you to do some work. So he looks it up and it turns out the same person that they have, Anderson Black. Yeah, they're linked together. So now they want to work together to try to make this happen. McDougal and Hawk, they're doing an old-fashioned stakeout in an all blacked out van. Now Hawk, he went and got him some coffee, but he was doing some observation also. So he was looking around. There's a parking lot across the street, and this is where all the dope boys park their cars before they go out and hit the corners. Now McDougal, of course, I told you he's our good cop, and he's on it. He's not going to leave his post. That's why he had Hawk go out and do it, because I got to survey the footage of everything going on. And what they are going to do is put a camera out on one of these light poles so they can get a better view. Miss Nicole is explaining to Ahmed exactly what's going on in Baltimore. Now she's saying the mayor wanted a full investigation of everything that's going on in Baltimore. Now she's saying she didn't even have to ask for that because they use a real life event, the death of Freddie Gray. If you look that up, he got arrested, but he ended up passing away a couple of days later from injuries to his spinal cord by being arrested by the Baltimore PD. Now, what she's saying is, in a city of 600,000 people, Baltimore PD had pulled over 300,000 people within the last 5 years. Those numbers aren't adding up. So half of the city has been pulled over or cited for something in 5 years. Back to our boys, Hawk and McDougal. They're over here. They got the cameras hooked up. And now it looks like they see Mr. Black hopping out of his late model Jeep Cherokee. So what do? They zoom in and get the license plate number. And also now we have video proof of who Anderson Black is matching the Jeep Cherokee. So all of our notes, it's all starting to line up. Nicole takes Ahmed to meet up with the mayor because they want to get answers. Now the mayor starts giving a rundown of everything that happened after Freddie Gray. And she was saying she contacted the police commissioner. He actually went on vacation to Greece. She had to order him back, but he didn't change anything because they wanted to have preparation for everything that was going to happen after the death. Now, what she does do is lay a bombshell on Nicole and tell her, I'm actually stepping down. So this meeting that Nicole is having with the mayor, it really doesn't mean anything because she's not going to run for re-election. So now you got to start with a new mayor and basically start all the way over. Now listen closely. They have Officer Kilpatrick here. You remember the guy that gave them information on Anderson .Black. Now he starts telling them that last year Anderson .Black got pulled up on by some cops for selling dope at Belvedere Towers. Now he had 300 grams, which is a federal offense, but it was never reported. You remember Momodu, he was just talking about him being in Belvedere Towers. You see how the connection is starting here? They picked up Anderson .Black, but they didn't report it because he was a robber. He took the drugs from Anderson .Black. McDougal and Hawk, of course, they got this big black van. What are they doing? They're surveilling Anderson .Black. Now he pulls up to an apartment complex and they say he's home a little bit earlier because you know the dope boys be out all throughout the night. Now the apartment is in his girlfriend's name. The Jeep Cherokee is in his girlfriend's name. He doesn't want anything attached to his name. Now what Hawk is about to do is run over there and put a tracking device up under the Jeep Cherokee. Nicole goes and meets up with a public defender. And what she's doing is she's trying to gather information on any cops that have a troubled past, anybody with a lot of complaints. Now he said he's been doing this 12 years too long. And he does have a name that he comes up with. It's an Officer Herschel. This public defender shows a couple of his clients that were arrested by Herschel that were beat. Now, the only thing is they all put in complaints, but all of them were unsustained. Unsustained means there wasn't enough evidence to go ahead and press charges or go along with the allegations. So it's basically just thrown out. We get our first glance at Officer Herschel. Now, he pulls over this black gentleman and his son. Now, the guy is saying, what am I pulled over for? He said, you failed to stop. That's how they usually get you. So make sure when you stop, you actually stop. Don't do a rolling stop because they be trying to get you for the littlest of things. Now, he's saying, I stopped completely. He's saying, can I get my license and insurance? He tells him, go ahead and step out the car. And then he disrespects this black man. Now, we know Herschel is a bad cop. We just heard the public defender talk about that. He takes all of his cards, credit cards, throws them out. Then he says, oh, okay. Go ahead and get out of here. Next time, be more compliant and don't talk back. This Herschel guy needs to be off the streets. McDougal, Kilpatrick may be the duo we didn't know that we needed. Now they're going to the DA and they're bringing this information about the Bumblebee packs, Anderson .Black, because they want to take this federal. Now they do have 3 or 4 people that will testify that they got these drugs from these people. And you know, a DA, before they're going to put together anything, especially to go federal, they're going to need almost 100% proof so they can stick that case to whoever they're going after. Now we get to see what Momodu, Gondo, aka G Money, and his partner Jamel are up to. Now they show up to the Carriage House Garden Apartments. This is where Anderson .Black was staying at. And what do? You remember, they are cops. But he's in there and he's telling the investigators that we were robbing. They go over here and rob Anderson .Black's house, and all that was in there was his girlfriend, but they got all the product. Now this was a successful robbery. She wasn't expecting them. They wasn't expecting her in there, but she was scared. What you gonna do when 2 people in all black pull up with them things out? Now it's time to pull up on Anderson .Black's house as the police, the good police officers. Now Kilpatrick, where he works at, it's a little bit more organized than Baltimore Police Department. So what they have is IAD, that's the Internal Affairs Division. And they have one of their officers go out with them to make sure no one gets any sticky fingers or does anything that they aren't supposed to be doing on a crime scene. Miss Nicole, she's in the office of civil rights. So she's going to talk to the judge because she wants to get information on Herschel. Now, anyone whose rights are violated, that's her job. Now, it comes to find out that Herschel is actually an asset to the Baltimore Police Department just for the simple fact that after Freddie Gray passed, he's the only one making arrests. So that's why he's an asset, because a lot of people are stepping back because they don't want that backlash. We seen the 2 cops earlier let that gentleman go because they didn't want to have all that paperwork and people coming after them. Now, there is a list of about 20 something officers that aren't allowed to testify. That's because they've been expunged for almost perjury on the stand. Meaning, if something goes wrong, we're not going to bring these 20 up because they may mess up everything. And Herschel is up under that protection. Officer Herschel is at it again. We just heard the judge talk about this man. We just heard the public defender talk about this man. They pulled over someone else. There was nothing in there. His partner searched the car, nothing. And the guy is saying, see, I told you, this is some BS, man. F you. Herschel pushes him and says, he put his hands on me. Now you're under arrest. He slams him to the ground, busts his head open, and he puts him in handcuffs for assaulting the officer and resisting arrest when that's not what he did. You pushed him. You pulled him over for no reason. Herschel's partner, he calls off the jail wagon. He's not taking this man to jail. Herschel, you banged this dude up. So he's calling for an ambulance. And you hear Herschel say, oh man, just throw a band-aid on him and throw him in central booking. Now you see why this man, they don't let him take the stand. Because this dude, he needs to be off the streets. And the crazy thing is, there's thousands of officers like this in the real world. Now you see Momodu, aka G Money, and his boy Jamel, they at the strip club. They popping bottles. They throwing money. Jamel got a rollie on. Where'd they get all this from? Robbing dope boys. That rollie, you think he paid for that? Oh no. I came up on this. We got Officer Kilpatrick at Anderson Black's apartment. McDougal and Hawk at the motel where Anderson Black is actually staying. The warrant is in effect. At the apartment, there's no dope, there's no guns, there's no money, there's nothing in here. And the door had already been kicked in. So Kilpatrick is telling McDougal, I don't know what's going on here, but somebody was already in here. But you remember it was Momodu and Jamel that robbed him last night. So that means Anderson Black, he seen this and he got all of his stuff and they went over to the motel. But also, you hear Kilpatrick tell him, hey, make sure you get that tracking device because those are expensive. Remember they put it up under Anderson Black's Jeep Cherokee. McDougal and Hawk, they arrest Anderson Black at the motel. I told you they took all their personal belongings after they got robbed and got out of there. Now, when Hawk goes over here to get the tracking device, when he pulls it off, he looks at it and it's not theirs. He's like, what the hell? He reaches under there and then he finds his tracking device. So now there's two tracking devices on this vehicle. Now the other one had to come from Momodu because that's the only way they would know exactly where Anderson Black lives. But Hawk, they don't know that yet. McDougal and Hawk are trying to figure out whose tracker this is and why was it on their suspect. Now McDougal, he's doing way more work than me because you got to get that serial number and you can trace it back to whatever police station it is. And these tracking devices cost a lot. So he gives them a name. And Hawk's like, why would they even do this? But what McDougal does is he doesn't turn it in because he wants to know who was tracking them. So if they want it back, they're going to have to come and contact him. So he puts it in his drawer because he wants to know exactly what you guys are doing, telling our suspect without us knowing. We see Momodu and Jamel, they bragging, man, last night was crazy, man. We need to do some more hits. Now, this is Officer McClure. This is the guy who loaned the tracking device to Momodu to put on the Jeep Cherokee. Now he's going out with them in the streets and he's like, hey, Momodu, when you gonna give me that tracker back? He's like, oh man, you got money for it. Basically saying that tracker is gone. You know what I'm saying? You can cover that. But McClure, he looks like he's a cop that's gonna be straight and narrow. He needs that back, man. I checked that out. We know Momodu and Jamel at this point, they're crooked cops. So they pulled this man over because they thought there was something in the vehicle. They don't find anything. That's what their job is. Go out, look for some drugs, look for some money, and then steal it. Now, the reason they pulled him over, Momodu kicks the license plate and says that it's obscured and you can't see anything on it. When in reality, there was nothing that this man was doing wrong. Their sergeant pulls up. And you know, when you out there working, you like, damn, if my boss pulls up, man, there's got to be something. And that's what we were thinking. They about to get in trouble. But now he comes out here, he's joking around. He's like, yeah, I was just pulling up on y'all, but I'm about to get on out of here. So you know Gondo's heart was racing because these dudes is dirty. Back in the interrogation room, Momodu's talking about, yeah, man, we were the cops that everybody wanted. We were doing our jobs. We were getting guns and drugs off the streets. No, you were stealing guns and drugs off the streets. Yeah, you made a couple of stops, but the big stops, you were keeping that for yourself. It ain't no time to feel sorry for yourself. Baltimore Police Department, Officer Wayne Jenkins, ComStat presentation. Basically, ComStat is your computer stats, and it just tracks all the crimes on like a little map. You can sense a little bit of cockiness with Officer Jenkins, and they're like, How come you guys' arrest rates are up, but the rest of the force is down since the Freddie Gray death? And he's saying because we're doing our job and we don't mind being on someone's viral video as long as they capture my good side. Come on, Jenkins. You that good of a cop that you just bringing up all the rest on your own single-handedly? Now, after this meeting, you see the commissioner. He tells one of his assistants, hey, go tell Jenkins IAD wants to see him tomorrow morning at 9. He didn't report he hit a vehicle on the side of the building. Look at me. If you hit any GOV, you better report that. The next morning, Wayne shows up. Got to clear his weapon. You know, you got to put it in there, Mason. Ain't nothing in the chamber. Then you got to lock it up and you take your key. Now, he's in a good mood. What's going on, everybody? Oh, hey, how you doing? Hey, I see you. It's just a normal day for Mr. Jenkins. As soon as he gets upstairs, March 1st, 2017, 9:12 a.m., the FBI hems our boy Jenkins up, puts him against the wall. All that you've been talking in one episode, and the feds is on you. The commissioner's like, let me go in there and just talk to him 1 second before the feds get on him. And he just says, ooh, you knew how upset he was looking into Jenkins' eyes. Because whatever you did, there's nothing I can do. This is the feds. We Baltimore PD. It ain't no stopping the feds with local PD. As of right now, we don't know what they got him on, what charges. But he's like, do y'all know who I am? Because in the hallway, he was screaming, hey, I'm one of y'all. And this is where we leave it at. Because he's talking about, do you know who I am? Yeah, we know you a local police officer. And we know that you were in handcuffs by the feds. There you go, episode 1 of We Own This City. Now, this looks like it's going to be a very interesting series. I'm definitely going to pick up on it, and we will have the recaps dropping on Tuesday. But let me know what you think about Momodu. Is he really going to fold and tell everything? And also, what is your prediction on Officer Jenkins and what's going to happen to him with the feds? I'm Moedotj. If you like the content on the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'm out.
Jimmy on the beat, boy.